Hello friends, myself Dr. Nandakumar Raubale from College of Engineering Ambazube is going to deal with Applied Thermodynamics 1. This is our 45th lecture. In previous lecture we have discussed on condition required for minimum work done per kg of air to be compressed. Then cylinder dimensions of a multi-stage compressor. Today we will discuss about actual indicator diagram in a compressor and work done and indicated power required to run the compressor, then classification and working of various rotary compressors will be discussed in today's lecture. So now, what is this actual indicator diagram or PV diagram? Generally we study PV diagram, theoretical PV diagram we have studied. Now what actually happens in a compressor, that is to be dealt in detail. So that is called as a actual indicator diagram. So PV relations, pressure and volume relations are going to vary during the process of compression, and those things which are going to vary during the process of compression are plotted on PV diagram. So generally what happens is we say that at the starting at point 1 compression process starts. So this compression process starts up to 2. So this pressure P2 is the delivery pressure or reservoir pressure and P1 is the atmospheric pressure. Here is compressed from pressure P1 to the pressure P2, which is required pressure. So at this pressure air will not be delivered to the reservoir because the pressure in the reservoir and pressure P2 will be same, and never the fluid flows from one place to another place if there is a pressure less or equal. If there is the pressure difference, then only the fluid flows from one place to another place. So therefore it is necessary to increase the pressure beyond required pressure or pressure of reservoir. So pressure is increased up to P2 dash. Instead of stopping increasing the pressure, compression process is continued still beyond the receiver pressure, and then when it becomes greater than the receiver pressure or reservoir pressure, then only air starts to be delivered into the reservoir. So this is the additional work required to be supplied to the compressor in order to supply this air into the reservoir. Then from point 3, expansion of air which is present in the clearance balloon VC starts. So this process 3 to 4 is the expansion process. But as soon as the pressure in the cylinder is going to be equal to the atmospheric pressure, the atmospheric air will not enter into the cylinder. Therefore, pressure in the cylinder of a compressor has to be reduced below atmospheric pressure. So there will be reduction in the pressure below atmospheric pressure. Then only suction starts. So this suction process starts as the pressure in this compressor cylinder falls below the atmospheric pressure. Then only atmospheric air enters into the cylinder. Again, this suction process completes at point 1 and compression process starts. So this compression, theoretically we see that it terminates at point 2, but it extends up to P2 dash. Then only delivery process starts and the air is delivered. Then the expansion of air present in the clearance volume takes place. Theoretically we say that this expansion stops at 4 and suction starts from 4 to 1. But practically what happens, the pressure inside the engine, compressor cylinder has to fall below atmospheric pressure up to 4 dash. So pressure instead of from P1 it has to be reduced up to P1 dash. Then only the air will start to enter into the compressor cylinder. So this is the difference between actual PV diagram and theoretical PV diagram. So this is the additional area which is shown in the actual indicator diagram. So if it is multi-cylinder engine, same is the case. See here, the compression in first LP cylinder starts at point 1. So theoretically we see that it ends at point 2, but the pressure has to be increased beyond that, so that the pressure in the LP cylinder increases greater than the lowest pressure of HP cylinder. Then only air starts to pass into the HP cylinder. Again, the clearance air starts to expand and the pressure falls below the atmospheric pressure. Again, fresh air enters into low pressure cylinder. In HP cylinder, similar case happens. So here in HP cylinder, so when this air enters into the HP cylinder, so pressure in the HP cylinder falls first. As this air in the LP cylinder is at higher pressure, and then only this pressure has to be increased beyond the HP cylinder pressure, minimum HP cylinder pressure, and then only this air enters into the HP cylinder and compression starts in HP cylinder, and this is the required pressure or P3. So pressure has to be increased beyond P3 up to P3 dash, then only it is possible to discharge air into the reservoir. So this discharge process starts at point 1, 2, 2 dash. Then this is 3, 4, 4 dash. So this is for LP cylinder 1, 2, 2 dash, 3, 4, 4 dash. So now here 5 to 6 and 6 dash is the compression process. 7 to 8 and 8 dash. So again this expansion takes place up to 8. Theoretically we say that expansion ends at 0.8, but expansion has to be extended beyond that, so that the pressure in the HP cylinder falls below the pressure of LP cylinder. So this is the LP cylinder pressure, and this pressure has to be reduced below LP cylinder, and then only the air enters from LP cylinder to HP cylinder. So this suction starts, and from point 5 again suction starts at 8 dash and it ends at 5. Again from point 5 the compression process starts. So this cycle repeats. So this is called as the actual indicator diagram. So here this actual indicator diagram, what is to be understood here? So air is compressed beyond the required pressure, then only air is delivered into the reservoir. And another thing is during suction process the pressure in the compressor cylinder has to be reduced below the actual atmospheric pressure or LP cylinder pressure, then only air flows into the compressor. So this is the additional work required in case of compressor. Actually theoretically we do not consider this extended portion. So this extended portion is considered in actual indicator diagram. So this is how there is a difference between actual indicator diagram and theoretical indicator diagram. Theoretically we speak that the pressure as soon as it attains the required pressure we have to discharge, or automatically discharge takes place to the reservoir, but it is not the case. So as soon as it reaches to the maximum pressure, the airflow will not take place from compressor cylinder to the reservoir. Pressure has to be increased beyond that, then only discharge of air takes place into the reservoir. Now we will proceed to the work done required to compress the air and power indicated power. So now already we have derived one equation. So work done per cycle, work done per cycle indicated power, or work done that we have derived is work done is equal to N divided by N minus 1 P1. VA is the amount of air sucked in meter cube per cycle into P2 divided by P1 to the power of N minus 1 divided by N minus 1 Newton meter per cycle is the work done. This we have derived. Now first case we will consider here. Theoretical work done is known to us. So this is theoretical work per cycle in case of a single stage. So this is for single stage, single acting compressor. This is for single stage, single acting compressor. Single stage means air is compressed in only one cylinder, and single acting means on one side of piston air is compressed. So this is called as single stage, single acting air compressor, and work done is given by this equation. Now, if we want to find out the indicated power for this compressor, which is single stage, single acting, so we will find out indicated power. Indicated power for single stage, single acting air compressor. So now just before that, if work done is given in Newton meter per cycle, if this Newton meter per cycle is multiplied by cycles per second, and cycle gets cancelled, Newton meter per second is nothing but joules, or we can call this as a watt. So if we want to convert this into kilowatt, we have to divide it by 1000. If we divide it by 1000, then we can have this in kilowatt. So multiplying work done, which is Newton meter per cycle, by number of cycles per second and dividing it by 1000, we can get indicated power in kilowatt. So cycles per second means number of revolutions per second. So revolutions per second is nothing but cycles per second. Revolution means one revolution. In one revolution it completes one cycle. So revolutions per second is nothing but cycles per second. So now this indicated power is given by N divided by N minus 1 P1 VA. Now we will multiply it by revolutions per second RPS and divide it by 1000, and then we will rewrite this bracket as it is P2 divided by P1 to the power of N minus 1 divided by N minus 1. So this gives us indicated power in kilowatt, where P1 and P2 are in Newton per meter square, VA in meter cube per cycle. Then we can get indicated power in terms of kilowatt. This is one equation. Now second, indicated power for single stage double acting compressor. Power for single stage double acting air compressor. This is given as indicated power IP is equal to double acting means air is compressed on both sides of a piston. When piston moves towards right, air is compressed on this side. When piston moves on left side, air is compressed on another side. Means it compresses air on both the sides during forward and backward movement. Air is compressed. Therefore, power required will get doubled approximately the power required to run such compressor will be double. Therefore, indicated power is given by N divided by N minus 1 V1 VA into 2 RPS revolutions per second divided by 1000, again in bracket P2 divided by P1 power of N minus 1 divided by N minus 1 kilowatt. So here the term 2 is for double acting. So as it is double acting, so this 2 is introduced. If it is single acting, it will be 1. So now if we see that the compressor is a multi-stage air compressor, then the indicated power for multi-stage air compressor with perfect intercooling is given by indicated power is equal to N divided by N minus 1 V1 VA into N into RPS divided by 1000. So this N is number of stages in bracket P2 divided by P1 or Pn plus 1 divided by Pn to the power of N minus 1 divided by N minus 1 kilowatt. So pressure, final pressure minus pre-final pressure to the power of N minus 1 divided by N minus 1. So this is nothing but indicated power for multi-stage air compressor with perfect intercooling. Now proceed for rotary air compressors. So as the name itself indicates, the rotary air compressor consists of some of the rotary parts, therefore we call it as a rotary air compressor. Very first type of rotary air compressor is root blower. Then we can study a vane blower, centrifugal compressor, and axial flow air compressor. Now this is rotary air compressor type of, this is known as a root blower. So this is a root blower air compressor. So what it consists of, first that we will see, and how it works we will study. See, this is the casing of air compressor. The casing or outer cover, we call this the casing of air compressor, rotary air compressor. Now it has got two lobes. So this is lobe number 1. L1, lobe number 1, and this lobe number 2. So this lobe number 1 is hinged at point 1 and lobe number 2 is hinged at point 2. And these are operated by a back gear arrangement, and these lobes are going to rotate in opposite direction. So if one rotates in clockwise direction, another rotates in anti-clockwise direction. Now here the inlet air supply is given from bottom. The atmospheric air enters into this compressor from bottom, and we will see here 3 compartments now. So compartment A, compartment B, and compartment C. So now as we start this compressor, the fresh air enters into this space and gets occupied this space A. As this lobe rotates, both lobes are going to rotate at the same time. So this lobe moves in the downward direction and this part moves in the upward direction. So the air which is trapped here is pushed in the forward direction, and this part A or the region A is going to trap by this lobe, and this lobe becomes inclined. So this lobe takes this position, and when it takes this position, air gets trapped here just like in section B. Similarly, as this lobe rotates, this air which is trapped in this region B is forced in the upward direction, and as soon as this lobe becomes horizontal, lobe number 2 becomes horizontal, when it occupies this position, when lobe number 2 occupies horizontal position, so this part of air which is at B will come here, and this air will rush into the reservoir. So initially air is trapped and gradually air is pushed. As soon as this receiver end opens, suddenly pressure of air increases because this air which is in the receiver starts to come back. So this air which is in the receiver starts to come back, and because of that pressure increases. But gradually this air is pushed into this receiver with the help of two lobes and again squeezed out. We can use a special word, squeezed out, into the receiver, and gradually the air pressure increases. Again, these lobes are going to capture fresh air in this region, and this air which is captured is forced in the both sides of this root blower and forced into this receiver. So now we can see here so here generally air enters from lower side, gets trapped here. This lobe forces this air from right hand side, second lobe forces air trapped here from left hand side, and both lobes are helping this air to be squeezed out into the receiver. And as soon as this portion or region B gets open to the reservoir receiver, suddenly pressure increases. So here just air gets trapped, and as soon as this lobe opens the receiver port, suddenly pressure increases and this air is squeezed out at this constant pressure. So this is a irreversible pressure rise that we can observe here in case of this root blower. So this is how root blower works. Now coming to second type of rotary air compressor, a vane blower. This is vane blower. Now here this also has got some components. So this is inlet P1, and it has got a stationary part which we call as a casing. So this outer part is known as a casing, and in this casing there is one inner part known as a rotor. So this inner part is known as a rotor. The rotor is having radial grooves in it. So these are the grooves. So these grooves are radial about its center. So these radial grooves consist a moving plate or sliding plate. So these plates are inserted in these grooves with the spring behind it. So this spring exerts force on these vanes. We call this as a vane. So this spring always exerts force on this vane to move it in the outward direction. So as this vane blower is started, the air enters into this compartment, and as this vane blower moves in the forward direction, when these vanes are moved, so air trapped is moving in this direction, and these veins are moving in the outward direction. So as these veins move forward, so this air first is occupying this place, then it comes at Va, then it comes at Vb, then it moves at Vc, afterwards it moves at Vd, and suddenly it comes to say Ve. When it comes to Ve, this air is squeezed out into the receiver, and immediately after that there is no clearance. That means this air is completely squeezed out, no air will come here, and here there is a zero clearance. Again, when this vein comes here, suddenly this vein starts to come out, and here the space is provided. Again, this space captures fresh air and forces this fresh air in the forward direction. Then it comes to Va, Vb, Vc, Vd, Ve, and from Ve it is squeezed out into the reservoir. Now you can find here the air is first taken into this first section, and then pressure is increased from 1 to A to B, B to C, C to D, and as soon as it comes to the reservoir VE, suddenly pressure is increased, and then air is discharged into the reservoir. So this is how the vane blower works. So only thing is, one should know that there is a spring behind this vane which operates movement of this vane in outward direction or inward direction. So this spring forces this vane in outward direction, and moment of this rotor in the clockwise direction makes this vane to move inward because of the reducing clearance. So this clearance gradually reduces, and these veins are forced into the slots provided over the rotor. So this is how this vane blower works. One should know that these veins are moving in radial direction. Veins move in the radial direction, and there is a spring behind this vein. So this is known as vein, and this is known as rotor, and here there is a spring, and this is called as a casing. So this casing makes this vane to move in the inward direction, and spring forces this vane in the outward direction. The air which is trapped in first portion moves in second portion, third portion, fourth portion, fifth portion, finally it is discharged into the reservoir. So here it is shown in PV diagram. Gradually this space is reduced, and suddenly pressure is increased because this port gets open, and this air, the backflow of air takes place to some extent, and afterwards this air which is brought by these veins up to here is squeezed out into the reservoir. So this is nothing but the process of moving air into the reservoir. This is squeezing process, delivery process. Air is delivered into the reservoir receiver. Now coming to the next type, rotary air compressor, centrifugal air compressor. So what is the centrifugal air compressor? It is very similar to the centrifugal pump. It has got a volute casing. So this part is known as volute casing. So outermost part is known as volute casing, which is stationary. And then next part is known as a diffuser. So this part, just impeller, it looks like an impeller type, is known as a diffuser or a diffuser ring. So here it has got veins, and here if you find at the base of these veins space is less, and at the top the space is more. So there is a gradually increasing area in this diffuser, and innermost part, this part is known as the impeller. So this inner part is known as the impeller. It has got radial blades. So air enters from the center hole into this impeller, and this impeller makes this air to move away from center of rotation by centrifugal force. This air which enters at this center perpendicular to the plane of paper, this air is thrown by this impeller by centrifugal action into this diffuser, and from this diffuser it enters into the volute casing. So due to increased cross-sectional area, velocity of air thrown away gets reduced and pressure increases. So when cross-sectional area increases, the velocity reduces and pressure increases. As this air enters into this volute casing, gradually if we see here, this cross-sectional area is going to increase, and finally this cross-sectional area increases, and then this air, when it enters into this volute casing or delivery pipe, again here cross-sectional area increases. That means the air velocity gets reduced and pressure is going to increased. So this is how the air is thrown away in case of this centrifugal air compressor. So pressure ratio in this case of centrifugal compressor is approximately 12, and the rotation is approximately 20,000 rpm, 30,000 rpm. So this works or runs at 20 to 30,000 rpm depending on the type of air compressor. Now this is how this centrifugal air compressor works. Now coming back to previous here, rotary air compressor vane blower. So this is capable of producing pressure ratio PR, pressure ratio P2 divided by P1. We call this as pressure ratio as 8.5. It can increase pressure up to 8.5 times the inlet pressure, and it runs at 3000 rpm, and it's capable of delivering 150 meter cube of air per minute, FAD, air delivered. This is how these compressors are going to work. Now coming to next compressor, that is axial flow air compressor. So this is axial flow air compressor. It has got a casing. So this is outermost part is known as a casing, and to this casing stator blades are attached. So the term S is written, so all these are stator blades. Stator blade means these are stationary blades mounted over the casing. Casing is not a moving part, and the blades which are connected to casing or the impeller like part connected to casing is known as the stator blades. So these are the stators. So here we have a rotating part at the center which is operated by a engine or something electric motor. So this rotating drum is mounted with so here the rotary blades are mounted. So when this starts, the fresh air enters from atmosphere into this drum, and these blades, when this air enters, these blades, rotary blades, are going to force this air into the second stage. Then again the blades of second stage are going to throw this air into the third stage, then it is thrown into the fourth stage, just like the fan in our house. As the fan throws the air which is above fan towards the floor, in the same way, so this blade acts like a fan and throws this air in the backward direction, from first stage to second stage, from second stage to third stage to fourth stage, and fourth stage to fifth stage, so on. So this is how axial airflow air compressor works. So this pressure ratio is given in terms of pressure ratio per stage. So it depends on number of stages. The pressure ratio per stage is 1.2 to 1.3. So if there are n number of stages, pressure ratio is multiplied by 1.2 into number of stages. So if it has got 10 stages, then pressure ratio will be 12. If it has got 20 stages, pressure ratio will be 24. Sorry, if it is 20, it will be 24. That depends on number of stages. So maximum pressure ratio that can be obtained. Maximum pressure ratio, absolute maximum pressure ratio, that is up to 10. Pressure ratio obtained is up to 10 in this case of rotary air compressor. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of rotary air compressor over the reciprocating air compressor? So reciprocating air compressor is capable of giving free air delivery FAD approximately 300 meter cube per minute maximum, and it can increase pressure up to 1000 bar, whereas it runs at 300 rpm. A rotary reciprocating compressor runs at 300 rpm. So it runs at 300 rpm, it can build 1000 bar pressure, and it can deliver the 300 meter cube per minute of free air. But if we compare with the rotary air compressors are capable of giving free air delivered is approximately, it can provide 3000 of air, 3000 meter cube per minute of air, and only disadvantage of this rotary air compressor is it can build a pressure maximum up to 3 bar, and it can run at 50,000 rpm. Another advantage of this is no imbalanced parts, so vibrations are less in case of a rotary air compressor, whereas in case of reciprocating air compressor we can find the vibration as well as lubrication is one of the problem in what we call reciprocating air compressor, whereas in case of rotary air compressor lubrication is not complicated, and the rise in temperature in case of rotary air compressor is very less, and in case of reciprocating air compressor temperature rise is to the greater extent because of friction and lubrication problems. So in case of rotary air compressor, as there is no friction between parts of the machine, so the air coming out of this rotary air compressor will be clean and free from lubricant, whereas in case of reciprocating air compressor there is the friction between piston and cylinder, and because of that the air coming out will not be pure or clean. Sometimes it contains the lubricant particles in it. That is the disadvantage of air coming out of reciprocating air compressor. So this is how we have covered the theoretical part of compressor. Now in next lecture we'll discuss about the numericals on compressor.